CEO laughed at girl's piano skills, never expected this heartbreaking performance. In the heart of a bustling city, whispers filled the air of an extravagant gala, where wealthy elite strutted about in their finest attire under shimmering chandeliers. Among the crowd was Nathaniel Blake, the notorious CEO with an icy laugh and a reputation for ruthless business tactics. He stood at the center, a glass of expensive champagne held high, basking in the admiration and also in the gossip swirling around him. Tonight, however, the laughter would be silenced, and his world would tilt on its axis. At the corner of the grand hall stood a young girl named Mia, clutching her worn-out sheet music with trembling fingers. A mere 14, she was the embodiment of raw, unrefined talent, her big brown eyes glistening with both excitement and fear. The moment she stepped onto that polished black stage, an unsettling hush fell over the crowd. What made her different? She looked nervous, yet there was an intensity radiating from her, like a storm brewing just out of sight. It was a sweetness mixed with something hauntingly profound. The tension built as Mia settled in front of the grand piano, her hands hovering in anticipation. Nathaniel's laughter rang out again, mocking, "What is this? A child's recital?" Unsure murmurs rippled through the crowd, some snickered, their eyes full of cynicism. But a few others, those who had learned to never underestimate raw talent, held their breath, sensing something significant hung in the air. And then, as her fingers began to dance across the keys, everything changed. Each note echoed through the hall, capturing even the most skeptical souls. The melodies flowed like a river, tranquil yet powerful, wrapping the audience in its soothing embrace. But then, as she played, the music twisted. It turned darker, deeper, unleashing a tide of emotions. The soft strokes began to wane into something desperate. There was a pull of sorrow hidden beneath, weaving its way through the composition. Some in the crowd felt a lump forming in their throats, an unsettling realization dawning on them. This was not just a performance, it was a story begging to be told, and then it arrived, that peak moment of stunning beauty, the crescendo that made hearts skip. Nathaniel's laughter faltered, and the noise of the gala faded away, replaced by haunting chords that rang out like an echo of pain. Just when you thought the waters couldn't get any deeper, a whisper of vulnerability pierced the air. "Why do you laugh?" Mia's eyes searched the audience. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the last notes faded, silence enveloped the room like a heavy fog. The collective breath of the audience hung in the air, their faces painted with shock and disbelief. Nathaniel, now pale and sweat beading on his brow, shifted uncomfortably. Instead of cruel laughter, what surfaced was an echo of regret mixed with profound admiration. But the shock didn't linger long. A moment later, a single clap erupted, awkward yet fervent, quickly morphing into a torrent of applause, the sound almost vibrating against the walls. But what would become of Mia? And more importantly, as she left that stage, would she unlock the heart of the same man who once scoffed at her? Questions lingered in the charged atmosphere, waiting for answers that seemed just out of reach, stretching towards the next chapter of this collision between innocence and ambition. Mia stepped off the stage, her chest tightening with an unfamiliar mix of exhilaration and trepidation. The applause pounded like a drumbeat in her ears, but she couldn't shake the icy grip of Nathaniel's disdainful laughter that still echoed in her mind. What had just transpired felt surreal. Some guests rushed forward, their expressions a mingling of awe and disbelief, but others remained at a distance, rooted in skepticism. As she made her way through the crowd, Mia could feel their eyes on her, studying her every move. They whispered and pointed, some nodding in approval while others still clung to their earlier doubts. To her surprise, a woman in a striking crimson gown stepped forward, her face alight with admiration. "You were incredible, dear. Simply breathtaking." Mia managed a shy smile, her heart still racing from the performance. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the raucous crowd, but it was Nathaniel who hovered like a shadow, his gaze boring into her. He appeared lost in thought, far removed from the spectacle surrounding him. As if sensing her eyes on him, he turned abruptly, his expression unreadable. The moment their eyes locked, a silent challenge crackled in the air. Mia shivered, unsure of what storm lay behind the surface of that polished exterior. Suddenly, a sharp voice broke the tension. What was that all about? It was Cedric, Nathaniel's right-hand man, sneering from a few feet away. "Did you think you could just waltz in here and steal the show? A pity, really." Mia's heart dropped. She gripped the edges of her sheet music, fighting the urge to crumble. I was just playing," she stammered, desperately searching for strength in her shaking voice. But in this world of glitz and glamour, vulnerability was seen as weakness. "Playing? More like a child throwing a tantrum," Cedric continued, his eyes narrowing. The crowd had turned slightly, their attention shifting between the three of them, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Before she could respond, Nathaniel stepped forward, tipping the scales. "Enough, Cedric." His tone was low but commanding, silencing all around them. He looked at Mia, an inscrutable expression flitting across his features. Was it recognition? Regret? "You didn't play for them," he stated, almost accusatory. "You played for yourself." Mia blinked, caught off guard. Did he see her? Did he really understand? The doubt knotted her stomach, but then came a flicker of determination. "Music is all I have," she managed to say, her voice steadying. "Maybe that's more than what some people have." A murmur rippled through the crowd. She could feel the tides of their perceptions shifting, curiosity mingling with respect. But Nathaniel's brow furrowed, a mix of admiration and something darker surfacing in his eyes. "Then why are you here?" he questioned, his focus unwavering, the icy edge of his persona cutting through the warmth of the applause that had just moments ago filled the room. "This isn't the life you should want." Mia clenched her fists. "It's the life I have. But that doesn't mean I'll stop fighting for my dreams." The words hung in the air, heavy and laden with promise. For a heartbeat, it felt as if Nathaniel was beginning to understand the fire that burned within her. But just as quickly as he leaned in, the moment shattered as someone nudged through the crowd, waving a phone in their direction, breaking the spell entirely. "Look at this. Viral." The man shouted, his voice echoing. Everyone turned, eyes glued to the small screen. Mia's heart raced. What could it be? An image of her? A clip of her performance? She fought against the impending tide of anxiety, nerves fraying as the crowd erupted in speculation. But she wouldn't let it define her. Not again. With renewed certainty, Mia squared her shoulders, casting one last look at Nathaniel, who now seemed like a fortification in the tumult, amidst the wild reactions and rapidly swirling whispers. She turned away, determined to carve a path for herself, one that could involve the man who once laughed at her, or completely exclude him. But as she navigated through the throng, a chilling voice pierced through the noise. "You think you can just walk away without a choice to make?" Nathaniel's challenge reverberated, a ghostly reminder of her place in this world of power and influence that widened the chasm of uncertainty before her. A choice loomed large on the horizon, one that could redefine everything. Would she be willing to step further into the spotlight, or would she retreat and preserve her fragile spirit? As the crowd's energy shifted once again, anticipation hung thick. The next moment could unveil revelations she hadn't even begun to imagine. What would Mia decide? And what would it cost her? Mia's heart hammered in her chest as she stood, feeling an electric buzz in the air. The crowd's eyes flickered between her and Nathaniel, anticipation teetering on the edge of chaos. Her hands trembled slightly, the sheen of sweat clinging to her palms. She could feel Nathaniel's presence, a weight pressing down on her, intertwining with her determination. "Are you really prepared for what it means to fight for your dreams?" His voice cut through the tension, sharp and unforgiving. There was a challenge there, a gauntlet thrown down as he stepped aside, allowing the crowd's keen interest to spool tighter around her. "I have to be," she replied, the steadiness of her tone surprising even herself. Every word felt like a declaration, the air shifting subtly as the crowd leaned in, straining to catch every syllable. "What will you do next?" He pressed, studying her face, as if searching for cracks in her armor. "Anything it takes," she breathed, every ounce of passion roaring to life within her. She wanted to show them all, to lay bare her heart in this moment. Yet just as the crowd seemed ready to rally behind her, the man waving the phone cleared his throat again. "Check it out. We got footage from the performance." His voice shrieked over the murmurs, a wave wielding power over the moment. Mia's stomach lurched. The unseen eyes of the world were about to judge her, to dissect the raw energy she had poured into her playing. What would they see? A girl yearning for attention, or a woman uncovering her soul? The anticipation crackled with anxiety, then, as if a sudden storm broke, the phone was thrust into the air. The screen brightened, revealing snippets of her performance, the notes spilling from her fingers, laced with vulnerability and an explosive force. The facial expressions of the onlookers shifted, first skepticism, then intrigue, and finally awe. "I mean, wow." A voice murmured from the back, a mixture of disbelief and admiration rippling through the crowd like a live wire, igniting their emotions, yet above the reactions, Mia couldn't escape Nathaniel's gaze, still cutting, still lingering. It was a reminder of the world she stood at the edge of his world, where perceptions could change with a heartbeat. Would they see her for who she truly was? Or would the mockery of the past slice through her newfound strength? Before her thoughts could spiral, Cedric pushed his way forward again, advancing on her like a predator sizing up its prey. "You think this little moment will save you? That these flashy notes will make us forget?" His sneer was venomous, the crowd quieting to feel the gravity of his words. Mia's breath caught, a lump rising in her throat as she faced him. The spotlight felt suffocating, she wanted nothing more than to retake control of the narrative. "I think I've only just begun," she articulated, each word rising from deep within, a roaring flicker of defiance igniting. The ripples through the crowd began to grow, whispers of hope and encouragement forging a new narrative around her. "Look, everybody," someone shouted, excitement bubbling anew as they pointed toward the screen. "It's trending on social media. Piano power." Shockwaves ran through the audience like the crescendo of a final note. Her cheeks flushed with disbelief, fear melding with hope. But then, almost overshadowing the growing excitement, Nathaniel stepped closer, his presence looming like dark thunderclouds. "You really don't know what you're wishing for, Mia. Success comes with a price." The weight of his words pressed at her, heavy with truth and foreboding. What price would she be willing to pay, standing here in the spotlight where shadows loomed large? Mia's resolve tightened around the fear creeping into her chest. Could she face what lay ahead, or would she let the intimidation of the past drag her down? As the whispers morphed into shouts of support, uncertainty danced with hope, the atmosphere thick with possibility. What lay beyond this moment? Would Mia seize control of her fate, or let it slip away as Nathaniel observed from the edge, a king surveying a battlefield he once ruled? The crowd shifted, the air humming with a palpable tension. Whatever the outcome, it was clear, the stage was set for a reckoning. Would she be ready to face the storm, or would she falter under the weight of expectations? Mia's pulse raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions as the crowd's heat surged around her. The weight of Nathaniel's words lingered like a thick fog. She could see disbelief sprinkled across faces, but more than that, she noticed the flickers of change, flickers she had ignited with her music. But then Cedric sneered again, cutting the electrifying moment. "This is all just noise. His voice rose, trying to drown out the budding cheers. You think just because a few people clap, it makes you special? You're still that girl from last year, right? With each barbed word, Mia felt a knot tightening in her throat. She held his gaze, fueled by fear but needing a way to channel it into something useful. I want to let the past hold me back, she said firmly, her voice slicing through the air. It was a feeble defense against his venom, yet something inside her flared brighter. Ha! That's rich. Keep dreaming, kid. His chuckle was cruel and infectious, a reminder of the darkness that had trailed her. But the crowd shifted again, and Mia could feel something cracking through their dissatisfaction with Cedric. Shut up! A girl in the front yelled, her voice unexpectedly fierce. Let her speak. This time, Mia seized the moment. You all have your struggles. This is mine. She took a breath, each inhale stoking the fire within. Every note I play, every performance, it's my fight, my journey. And I'm willing to let it go, if it means finding my way. More murmurs ignited in the crowd, fueled by her passion. They were no longer passive observers, they were allies. She could see it, the shift, the unity sparking in shared dreams and fears, but Nathaniel's expression remained turbulent, like the brewing storm behind turbulent skies. And what if your dreams lead you to darkness? He challenged. What if that crowd that loves you today turns on you tomorrow? She wanted to scream. She wanted to shake him and drown out that voice of doubt. Then I'll face the darkness. She shot back, every syllable buoyed by sheer defiance. But I'll do it my way, not yours. I refuse to let your fears dictate my reality. A collective gasp floated through the crowd, the tension heavy as they processed her words. The electric buzz returned, more potent than before, as though they were wrestling with a shared understanding. Mia's chest tightened with hope and fear alike, her heart pounding with the possibility of failure but also with the fierce truth of empowerment. Look! Someone shouted again, pointing toward the phone. It's blowing up online. Suddenly, the atmosphere transformed. A wave of excitement spread through the audience as notifications alerted them to her trending hashtag. Mia watched in awe as phone screens lit up, capturing this very moment in all its raw, unfiltered glory. But just as triumph shimmered at the edges of the crowd, the energy shifted sharply. A low rumble began to echo at the entrance. She turned, instinct screaming at her to brace for the unexpected. A new figure emerged from the shadows, the tall silhouette undeniable, commanding attention. It was Nathaniel's closest associate, Miranda, her face a mix of concern and urgency. Nathaniel. We need to talk. Now. The mood cascaded downward, curiosity and worry blending. Mia felt her heart plummet. What had she stirred up? What does she want? She whispered only for herself. The tension snapped back into place, pressing on her chest like a heavy weight. Whispers flitted among the crowd, uncertainty rising again. The excitement started to fade, replaced by a growing fear of what could happen next. What consequences awaited if she truly began to carve her own path? Mia. Miranda's voice beckoned, laced with urgency. We have to move quickly before it's too late. Mia glanced back at Nathaniel, his eyes now stormy with intent. What did he know that she didn't? This was no longer only about seizing her moment, it was about confronting shadows lurking both behind and ahead of her. The stakes had shifted dramatically, and with that realization, the weight of her dreams grew heavier. What had she unwittingly ignited? And was she truly prepared for the consequences of her heart's longings? Mia felt an icy shiver run down her spine as she watched Miranda approach. The crowd, once buzzing with excitement over her performance, now resembled a sea of apprehensive faces. Their cheers dimmed into whispers. It felt like time slowed, each second stretched taut as she read the urgency in Miranda's eyes. Now? Nathaniel's voice remained thunderous, a mix of anger and confusion. What's more important than this? Miranda stepped forward, voice steady but urgent. This isn't about talent anymore, Nathaniel. It's about control. You're losing it. Mia's heart raced. The weight of those words hung in the air, tangible and suffocating. Control? She glanced at Nathaniel, the realization painted his expression with darker shades. What do you mean, Miranda? He demanded, his tone sharp, not disguising his rising panic. People are responding to her, Miranda said, gesturing to the sea of faces. Your kind of manipulation was supposed to keep this under wraps. Now look, she waved her phone for emphasis, showcasing the trending hashtags and the cascading stream of comments. Mia squinted, reading the screen. Her name was everywhere, but so were unfamiliar comments filled with mockery directed at Nathaniel and Cedric. An uprising was brewing, and that terrified her. You're not listening to me. Miranda pressed, her voice rising. This can spiral out of control if you don't act. We need to contain it. Then it hit Mia like a gust of wind. It wasn't just about her music anymore, she had unwittingly become a catalyst for something greater, a spark igniting a rebellion against those who thrived on silence and fear. Cedric's sneer twisted into a scowl as he surveyed the changing dynamics. This is a joke. You think you're some kind of hero? His voice dripped with disdain, but behind his bravado, Mia sensed the uncertainty. No one is a hero here, Nathaniel replied, his fingers twitching at his sides, a sign of his lost composure. But I will not let a bunch of sheep dictate our fate. The remnants of the crowd vibrated with tension, every heartbeat echoing the stakes. Mia could feel the energy crackle in the air, the tension thick enough to slice. Her fists clenched at her sides as adrenaline pumped through her veins. Suddenly, the fear that had stalled her began to twist into courage. Maybe it's time we let them decide. She shouted, surprising even herself. The volume of her voice trembled with conviction, and her chest expanded. You've kept us in the dark for too long. Now, we're ready to stand in the light. A ripple of disbelief washed over the crowd, followed by a reverberation of excitement. At that moment, she felt an unbreakable bond forming among them, shared yearning to break free from the shackles of judgment and control. Miranda nodded, a flicker of approval lighting up her worried face while Nathaniel seethed silently, jaw clenched. But before he could respond, the ground shook beneath them. A loud crash erupted from the back of the hall, followed by the unmistakable screech of metal against metal. Mia spun around, her heart racing anew. An unseen force was tearing through the night, and the crowd parted, revealing an ominous figure obscured by shadow, a group of encroaching figures, backs to them, clad in dark shapes that seemed almost unreal. Whispers escalated into panic as people started to back away. What is that? Are we safe? Mia's pulse drummed in her ears. This wasn't just about music or dreams anymore. The threat loomed larger than she ever anticipated. Get back! Miranda yelled, pushing through, and Mia could see the fear etched deeply into her features. In that tense moment, as shadows closed in on them, every instinct screamed for Mia to run, but another deeper feeling held her ground. This was the crucible she had stepped into, the test of her newfound resolve, but who were these new figures? And what did they want? An unseen darkness loomed closer, and it was clear. This was just the beginning. The air thickened, suffocatingly charged as the shadowy figures converged. Mia squinted, trying to make out their faces. Fear coursed through her veins like ice. Who were they? Were they a threat? With each step forward, the crowd's murmurs morphed into panicked whispers. People jostled against each other, eyes wide with fear, as if their very presence could draw them into the unfolding chaos. Mia shifted closer to Miranda, wishing for some semblance of safety. The first figure stepped into the feeble light, and Mia's breath hitched in her throat. Strong jaw, piercing gaze, Cedric. But not the Cedric she knew. He looked different, hardened, as if he had seen too many shadows and suffered for it. Mia, he announced, his voice chillingly calm, though it quivered ever so slightly. "You've gone too far. You think you intimidate me?" Mia shot back, fueled by adrenaline, her heart pounding in her chest. She was no longer a pawn in their game, she was fighting for something bigger than herself. Cedric's lips curled into that familiar smirk, but it was twisted with something darker. "It's not me you should be worried about." He gestured behind him, and the crowd's collective gasp filled the air. Mia's stomach dropped as more figures emerged from the darkness. They radiated authority, clad in uniform black, faces hidden beneath hoods. They moved in unison, a stark contrast to the disarray of the frightened crowd. The atmosphere crackled with lurking danger, a heavy blanket of foreboding falling upon Mia and everyone around her. "What do you want?" Mia cried out, her voice trembling, but she forced the quiver to escape unnoticed. One of the hooded figures stepped forward, the fabric of its cloak billowing as it moved. "Control," the figure said, voice smooth yet laced with authority. "You've disrupted the balance, little one. You spread hope, and hope, well, it's dangerous." A chill swept through her. This was no ordinary conflict, they were fighting for more than just her music. It was about dominance. It was what had kept the world she lived in teetering on the brink, silence forged from fear. "Do you really think they will follow you?" The figure continued, motioning towards the crowd. "They cling to the dark, and you." It paused for dramatic effect. "You are nothing but a fleeting star." Mirror images reflected back in the faces of the crowd. Whispers stretched out, "Is she really brave? Or just a fool?" Doubts began to infect the certainty she had just felt, but then something inside her ignited. "They aren't afraid of me," she shouted, straightening her posture. "They're afraid of you. I'm just the voice that finally cuts through the silence." She lifted her chin defiantly. The hooded figure laughed, the sound echoing mockingly. "That bravado will get you nowhere, girl. But I admire your spirit. You've incited a frenzy. People like us, we don't allow frenzy. We crush it." Mia's thoughts raced. Fear threatened to bow her will, but she couldn't let it. She needed to rally the crowd, harness that rising wave of emotion. "Look at us," she urged, eyes scanning the sea of frightened faces, searching for connection. "This isn't just about me, it's about us. If they think we're just noise, let us make a symphony." The crowd erupted into murmurs of agreement, but their collective fear wavered like candle flames flickering in a gust of wind. It was just enough. Together. She pressed, as she felt surge of familiar unity. "We're stronger than their darkness. If we stand as one, they cannot control us." The hooded figure's eyes narrowed, calculating. The tension was almost unbearable, thick enough that it felt as if the universe was holding its breath. They were a storm gathering strength, but Mia could sense a rift. Doubt was leaking into their ranks, and then it happened again. A shudder underfoot, hinting at a change, a potential eruption. She didn't know if it was a signal or a warning, but as she turned to her newfound allies, she knew the moment would define them all. "Are you with me?" she asked, her voice strong and clear. Before anyone could respond, the shadows closed in, and the air crackled again. The ground shook more violently, a rumble that resonated deep within their core, but the question loomed thick in the air, with the threat looming: could they truly unite, or would they crumble under the weight of fear? Mia's heart raced as she prepared for the inevitable conflict. This battle was just beginning, and the outcome was anything but certain. The ground trembled beneath them, a primal warning that sent waves of panic rippling through the crowd. Mia's legs shook, but she refused to falter. The eyes of her allies flickered with uncertainty, and in that moment of chaos, she knew she had to act. They needed her. "Stay with me," she shouted again, her voice cutting through the disarray. "Don't let fear take you. Together, we can fight this." Cedric stepped forward, his features submerged in shadow, but his aura exuded control, a venomous strength that made everyone recoil slightly. "You're only a spark in the night, Mia. Sparks die easily." His voice was sharp, like glass cutting through the tension. But Mia was not about to let it go. "A spark can ignite a fire," she countered, pulling from deep within herself, fueling her with memories of late nights spent playing music alone, the notes melting together under the glow of her desk lamp. "We can ignite change." The crowd was torn, caught between following her or retreating back into the darkness that had always kept them silent. They looked at her, faces pale, eyes wide. A low roar erupted from beyond the figures cloaked in black, as more hooded figures stepped forward, their purpose palpable, casting flickering shadows over the already clouded tableau. A chill ran through Mia, the numbers were growing, tightening like a noose. "Enough of this charade," one of the newer figures said, voice cold and commanding. "This is not a game, girl. You think you can change anything standing there alone?" The words echoed, grabbing the attention of those wavering. "Join us!" someone shouted from the back of the crowd. It was a voice thick with emotion, trembling yet fierce. "We don't have to live in fear." Hope flared, reigniting a desperate spark in the eyes around Mia. She seized this moment, this fragile lifeline. "Look at each other," she cried, urging them with her gaze. "Don't give in. You are not alone. We are a chorus, each of us a crucial note in this song of defiance." The murmurs transformed, growing louder, as uncertainty morphed into agreement. The crowd began to shift, stepping closer together. The figures in black faltered as their ranks saw the swell of determination form before them. "See? Your fear is your strength," Mia shouted, energized by their gathering resolve. "Together, we can drown out their darkness. Let your voices rise." But the hooded figures regrouped, tightening their formation. The air grew thick again, as if it were preparing to snap. "Enough of this foolishness," one of them snarled, raising a gloved hand that glinted ominously in the dim light. "You think your voices can drown out the inevitability of control? We are everywhere." Then, with a suddenness that struck like thunder, the ground shook violently, and the crowd stumbled back. Fear surged again, crushing the hope she had ignited. Mia felt that darkness creeping in like a shadow, trying to extinguish her light. But as she steadied herself and raised her voice above the chaos, a pulse of power coursed through her. "We are not afraid," she screamed, letting every ounce of defiance infuse her words. "Let them try. Together, we will not be silenced." As if responding to her challenge, the shadows lunged forward, and cries erupted from the crowd, a mix of terror and resolve, swelling like the tide. In the chaos, Mia felt the energy shift once more, a vibration humming through their connection, igniting a spark that sent shivers down her spine. The hooded figures advanced, and the moment crystallized, the air charged with tension. But just as their control threatened to crush all hope, a figure emerged from the darkness, breaking away from their ranks, and everything stopped. Mia squinted, trying to make out the identity of this newcomer. A glimmer of recognition flashed through her, followed by a wave of confusion. Was it ally or foe? As the crowd held its breath, uncertainty clung to them. The stage was set for a reckoning, and Mia had no idea if this figure would tip the scales in their favor or plunge them deeper into the abyss. The figure stepped forward, and a flicker of light caught Mia's eye. She gasped. It was Lila, her childhood friend, the one who had always stood by her side, no matter the odds. Lila's familiar face was drawn tight, but her eyes blazed with an intensity that shook Mia to her core. "Mia!" Lila shouted, cutting through the sea of shadows with her voice. "I'm here. Remember what we used to talk about? We can't let them win." The crowd shifted restlessly, confusion still hanging in the air. Was Lila with them? Against them? But the moment was charged, the tension thick like fog. Mia's heart raced. Support from Lila could be a turning point, or it could backfire spectacularly. We're stronger than we think. Lila continued, her hands raised in a peaceful gesture. We've faced the darkness before, haven't we? Stand with me. The figures in black stopped, uncertainty creeping into their ranks. They hadn't expected anyone from within the crowd to rise up against them like this. Mia felt hope ignite again, pulsing through the crowd like an electric charge. What are you doing? Cedric snarled, his voice dripping with disdain. You're nothing but a distraction. He stepped closer, eyes fixed hard on Lila, as if piercing through her resolve. The shadows shifted ominously around him, like lurking beasts waiting for a command. Listen to her. Mia shouted, her pulse pounding in her ears. She could feel Lila's energy radiate, bringing warmth back into the cold void created by the hooded figures. We don't have to be afraid. We can take our fate into our own hands. The crowd's murmurs crescendoed. A few brave souls began to step forward, rallying behind Mia and Lila. They clasped hands, creating a line of solidarity, a barricade against the rising tide of darkness. You think they'll join you? One of the hooded figures mocked, stepping up to the line, shrouded in a cloak of malice. They're weak. Just like you. No. Lila shouted, her voice slicing through the mockery like steel. We are not weak. Our strength lies in our unity. Mia felt it, a shared resolve enveloping them, binding the crowd together. They were proving Cedric wrong. But just as the surge of courage reached its peak, the earth trembled violently again. Dust fell from above, and screams echoed in a chaos of sound. The hooded figures regrouped, forming an impenetrable wall against the fractures now gnawing at the ground beneath them. I want to let you take her. Lila suddenly shouted, pushing forward. Mia could see the fire in her eyes. It was contagious. It began to spread throughout the group. As if fueled by Lila's outburst, the crowd surged forward, their collective strength roaring against the engulfing shadows. Cedric couldn't contain himself, and when he raised his hand again, the air crackled ominously. Enough! He roared. This will end now. Mia felt an icy chill sweep over her, slithering up her spine. What would happen next? The shadows shifted, elevating their threatening presence and the ground trembling more violently than before. Suddenly, a flash of white light created a barrier between the crowd and the encroaching darkness. Mia squinted, trying to find the source. Do you see it? Lila breathed, her voice barely a whisper. What? Mia replied. The strength that's coming from us. In that moment, Mia realized they possessed something so much stronger than fear. But as a crack formed beneath their feet, an unsettling question lingered: could their newfound strength withstand the storm? With her heart racing, Mia gripped Lila's hand tighter. The flickering light around them began to pulse. Where would it lead them next? The tremors beneath Mia's feet intensified, the ground threatening to swallow them whole. The air crackled, and the flickering light pulsated like a living creature, radiant and savage at the same time. Lila held tight to Mia's hand, her grip a lifeline against the chaos unfolding around them. Mia! Lila yelled over the chaos. Focus! Don't let fear drown out your strength. Mia nodded, heart pounding mercilessly in her chest. They had to hold on. Desperation surged through the crowd, intertwining with newfound determination, pushing them forward. But the hooded figures didn't budge. Cedric's eyes glinted with malice as he raised his hand once more, readying to unleash whatever dark magic he had been hiding. Suddenly, a scream shattered the murmur of the crowd. A woman, trapped in her own terror, pointed toward the swirling shadows. They're coming for us. Mia's heart sank as a wave of dread swept over her. She glanced back at Lila, and their eyes locked in a moment of understanding that pierced the fog of fear. They could face this together. They had to. The crowd trembled, wavering as the figures in black began to advance, their movements snake-like, drawing nearer, fueled by despair. Mia stepped forward, searching their faces, her friends, neighbors, and those she barely knew. We need to stand strong. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone we love. Some stepped back, uncertainty flickering in their expressions. But Lila's voice echoed out again, fiercely unwavering. We are a part of something bigger. These shadows can't take our light. The light pulsed once more, each throb synchronizing with Mia's heartbeat, a symphony of courage rising in the storm. Cedric's face twisted in rage. You think you can defy us? His eyes darted to the growing line of unified supporters. He hesitated. For a fleeting moment, hope danced like a spark in Mia's chest. The deafening crack rang out again, the earth splitting wider. Above, the sky darkened ominously, swirling in a vortex of despair and unease. Flickers of white light broke through occasionally, illuminating Cedric's face, a mask of fury and disbelief. Then Mia made a decision. We'll show them. She shouted, her own voice quaking but resonating. We will not be silenced. If we all put our light together, they can't touch us. With that rallying cry, she felt the energy pulsate, stronger than before, coursing through her veins like a river of molten courage. It was infectious, a wildfire that swept through the crowd. One by one, they raised their hands, their voices joining in a chant that echoed through the darkness. We are strong. We are light. The chant swelled, folding over itself with a rhythm that defied despair. Cedric's face contorted with rage, and he clutched at the air, desperate to regain control. Stop them! He barked, veins bulging in his neck. The figures surged forward, shadows creeping like serpents. But the crowd pressed onward, fueled by the solidarity Mia had ignited. The barrier of light expanded, glowing fiercely as they channeled their combined strength. Just as their light seemed on the verge of brilliance, a scream erupted from the back. Mia turned to see someone falling into the chasm that had opened behind them, their fearful eyes a mirror of her own panic. Help! Echoed through the air, a desperate plea. Mia's heart dropped. Who was it? The shadows encroached, the light flickered dangerously. They couldn't lose anyone now, not after they had come this far. Go! Lila shouted, her voice breaking through the thick fog of chaos. We can't let anyone get hurt. Mia hesitated, torn between the growing darkness and the cry for help. Could she risk everything for someone she might not know? The flickering light around them waned. What choice would she make? Mia's heart raced, caught in a battle between fear and bravery. The shadows twisted closer, but the cry rang louder in her ears, filled with desperation. We can't let anyone fall. She turned to Lila, her determination crystal clear. I have to go. Are you crazy? Lila shouted, panic etched across her face. What if you don't make it back? I can't just stand here. Mia's voice was fierce, fueled by a will she didn't know she had. With a nod of understanding, Lila's grip tightened around Mia's hand, anchoring them together in this moment of chaos. Okay, but you can't do this alone. As they moved toward the edge of the chasm, the air crackled, courage surged through the crowd, their chant reverberating against the looming shadows. With each step, Mia felt the heartbeat of the people behind her, felt them lending strength to her resolve. Stay together. She shouted to the crowd, urging them to keep chanting, to keep pushing back against the darkness. Don't let them win. Lila added, her voice cutting through the turmoil. Their united determination infused the crowd with life and energy. Mia and Lila rushed forward, adrenaline propelling them through the chaotic sea of onlookers. The shadows sizzled in response, recoiling like a tide pulled back before a storm. But they pressed on, determined to reach whoever was lost in the gaping void behind them. Closer and closer they came, the voices of the crowd a chorus of defiance behind them, uplifting and powerful. We are strong. We are light. The words became a shield, a powerful reminder that they were not alone. Mia cast her eyes over the edge, spotting a young man grasping desperately to the ledge. His face contorted with fear, he looked up, eyes wide with panic. "Hold on!" Mia called, her voice breaking through the noise. "We're coming." But as they approached, the shadows surged forward, threatening to swallow them whole. Mia felt a wall of panic, a suffocating fear squeezing her chest. Lila squeezed her hand, grounding her. "We can't think about the shadows, we have to think about him." Together, they bent down low to the edge, reaching out to the young man, their hearts racing as they risked everything. "Grab my hand," Mia urged, extending her arm as fear and hope mingled in her veins, swirling like a vibrant storm. He reached out, fingers brushing against hers, but the ground rumbled dangerously beneath their feet. The shadows lunged forward, pulling at him with icy tendrils, leaving him powerless at the edge. "Let go of him!" Mia shouted, her voice echoing against the chaos. The shadows hesitated slightly, as if unsure of their next move. "Please!" The young man's voice trembled, thick with desperation. "This is your moment." Lila echoed, urging him on. "You have to fight too." In that moment, something clicked, the shadows seemed to flinch back slightly, sensing his resolve tightening. Mia focused on the energy surrounding them, on the growing strength of the crowd's chant. It was an undeniable force, one that transcended fear and darkness. "Hold on tight!" she yelled, and with a burst of energy, she felt her own light ignite, merging with that of the crowd behind her. "Now!" With renewed strength, he grabbed her hand, and Lila reached out too, their fingers interlocking as they pulled with every ounce of determination they had within them. "Together!" they all shouted. The crowd surged, the light from their unified energy pushing against the shadows encroaching around them. As the young man was pulled to safety, the shadows writhed in anger, feral cries piercing the air. But there was no turning back, they had unshackled the power within them. The crowd roared their defiance, and with each heartbeat, the shadows recoiled further. Mia turned, meeting Lila's eyes with a fierce spirit of victory. "We did it!" The crowd erupted in cheers as the shadows began to dissipate, swallowed by the brightness of their united spirits. But even now, a shadow still loomed. Nathaniel stepped forward, emerging from the chaos, eyes wild with a mix of realization and fear. "This is not over," he warned, his voice low, threatening to tip the precarious balance. "You think you've won? Control will always come back to claim its own." Mia took a step forward, meeting his gaze with all the courage she had just discovered. "You can't control us any longer, Nathaniel. We are stronger together." As the crowd cheered again, hope soared high above the remnants of darkness. They had faced fear, transformed it into strength, and tonight, they had all emerged victorious. With a final glance at Lila and the restored crowd, Mia smiled, warmth enveloping her. This was just the beginning. The shadows might loom in the distance, but they were ready to face whatever came next, and this time, they would do it together. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.